It's 15 hours.
Namaskar, hello and welcome to this very special masterclass commemorating this World Environment Day. We have got with us a very enigmatic personality, Mr. Manik Thapar. Welcome, Manik ji, for today's masterclass. Since 1974, the entire world has been commemorating 5th of June as a World Environment Day, bringing to the policy desk the concerns around environment. So it all started in this formal fashion just as late as only 1974. In India, environment has been seen as a mix of 5 elements: Kshiti, Jal, Pavak, Gagan, Samira: earth, water, air, space, fire. So the 5 elements, last year we had at Rethink India commemorated the World Environment Day by giving away the Sri Krishna commendations, and it was a day to acknowledge I would say, the civilizational view of India, which has seen living with the environment, prakriti ke saath, living in communion, in sense over there. But yes, this is a modern world, and today we see things in a segmented and compartmentalized format. And today's this 2022 World Environment Day, whose host is Sweden, and the theme of this year's Environment Day is Only One Earth. So while there is a lot of global talk about climate change, accentuated by our fetish for energy and the burning of the fossil fuels, and net zero emission targets, we all talked about it. But little is talked actually about some of the very most pervasive aspect of it all, which the law of conservation says that the Earth's mass is being reconverted. One area is obviously the fossil fuels extraction and its burning, its translation into carbon and the greenhouse effect and all that stuff. But the other aspect onto which today's masterclass is dedicated, and it would not be wrong to call Acharya Manik Thapar, because being an entrepreneur, being a TRASHopreneur, as we have chosen to call him, someone who took as early as 2005 to become a trash entrepreneur against I would say that Manik would be talking about the kind of resistance or kind of things from friends and family that people aspire to become technopreneurs, people aspire to take on other clean areas, but Manik is cleaning the landscapes of our urban landscapes. He's cleaning them all. He's doing a much bigger service, and someone who is a practitioner of managing waste and utilizing all the most modern technological and managerial know-hows. So today we felt to commemorate this World Environment Day by inviting him and giving us a masterclass about the entire issue at hand. We at Rethink India feel like the superficial political issues, all that stuff is fine, but we have to understand as to what this whole challenge of waste is all about, what we can do at our individual levels. And one of the key focuses is that how we can contribute the personal resolves and practices which we can adopt ourselves right from the source of this waste generation to the systemic, I would say, solutions which Manik provides to residential apartments, commercial complexes, something which he's improvising upon, breaking the classical myth around waste management, where everything used to be collected together and then put onto landfills. So that is one of the most inefficient ways. And as very many scholars says that garbage is gold. So how Manik has struck gold from garbage, and how we all individually can come forward and take this plunge over there. So let's, for the next 30-35 minutes or more, we would listen Professor Manik Thapar, who is the founder of EcoWise Management Solutions, who will be giving us a bird's eye view and also an action oriented, I would say, my environmental manifesto, something which we can do right in our homes, because talking big, the larger policy debates are just fine, but how we can make a difference just in our own houses, in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. So that is also where we would seek his prescriptions. So without any further ado, over to Professor Manik Thapar for today's masterclass on World Environment Day 2022. Only one Earth which we have, and how we can protect this lovely planet and make it, keep it beautiful. Manik ji. Okay, there is some connectivity issue. I think he would be joining us shortly over here. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, there's some electricity issue going on here. It keeps going and coming.
No worries, please. So over to you, sir. Yeah.
Thanks, Raghav. Firstly, thank you for having me on board here and calling me to express my thoughts and talk about this sector that I've been in for the last 20 years now. Just to give you, everyone who is listening, a brief background about what we do at EcoWise. We are one of the first waste management, privately held waste management companies in the country. We started off in this sector in 2005. We started off from the residential side of collecting waste, and we used to actually collect waste in rickshaws. So employees used to go door to door, ring the bell. One employee used to collect from about 200 houses. And at that time, between 2005 to 2009, when we were doing the maximum amount of residential houses, at one time we were doing close to around 25,000 residential establishments every day, collecting garbage from their door to door in these rickshaws. And then we used to bring rickshaws, we used to segregate all the waste, because at that time segregation was something that was not practiced, I would say, at all. Maybe there was 1% of people who were, not even 1% of people who were actually doing it. So we used to bring all of this waste to our facility, and we used to remove all of the resources from it. And I like to call them resources because that's what they are: all your plastic, paper, cardboard, metal. And we used to sell all of that to recycling facilities to generate an income and convert the organic waste into compost. Now, what a lot of people will find fascinating is back then, and to a certain extent it still continues, RWAs never paid you for garbage collection. In fact, back then, RWAs used to demand money from you to collect waste from households. So you used to be in competition directly with the unorganized sector and the kabadis, because they were going in and putting in these tenders, filling in these tenders to pay RWAs money to collect garbage. So it was not a, it all looked very, it was literally a dirty business, one. Secondly, it was not a business where the gas station period was 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. It was a very, very long-term business. So when I got into the business, I took that horizon of at least a minimum of 15 years and a minimum of at least 10 years for us to start breaking even. That's how the journey of EcoWise started. And today, EcoWise in the private sector, we are spread across 15 cities in India. We have a state-of-the-art automated plastic recycling plant that is going to be now sanctioned in the city of Greater Noida. And we have 5 such plants that are planned within the next 3 to 4 years to come up around the country. We are also one of the largest aggregators and collectors of various types of recyclables, but specifically to mention cardboard and paper. And we have stopped servicing, we've stopped servicing the residential side of the sector and completely our focus has moved towards the commercial and industrial side of waste management. To give you a sort of a brief about where the sector is right now and what is happening in the waste management sector here in India, this sector is majority of the sector is unorganized. So 90% of the waste that is collected and segregated and processed is actually being done by the unorganized sector. So what a lot of the listeners might know what they call rack pickers or kabadis. These are the individuals who are actually collecting majority of the waste, segregating it. Even the processing of plastic and a lot of metals and e-waste is being done by the unorganized sector. In 2018, when I think it's 2016 or 17, when the Prime Minister came out with the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, it was, for me, I was very excited. I was like, damn, this is something very good. There's a Prime Minister who's actually focusing on this. But fortunately and unfortunately, what has ended up happening is that it has created a mass marketing movement for people to know about the issue. But other than that, practically on the ground level, there is little that has happened on the waste management side. What I was hoping, of course, and I'll touch upon this later on, was I was hoping that at least the Prime Minister will recognize that this sector is a major industry that adds not only revenue in terms of taxation, but also is a major employer of people. So I was hoping that him and his government, within the government, would understand this and would provide this sector industry status, which has still not happened. And we've written in numerous amounts of letters to the Prime Minister's office and to various other ministries in trying to explain to them why it is important that the sector get industry status. I'd also like to state that from a perspective of, and a lot of you might have recently in the last 1 month seen how our landfills have gone on fire. You've seen Ghazipur, you've seen Balsava, that have been just lit up, literally lit up in terms of fire. And a lot of you guys must be wondering as to why something like this happens. Of course, heat is a major, has a major role to play in this. But beyond heat, there are a lot of other issues that the mainstream media does not want to touch upon or does not want to talk upon. And I would like to discuss that so that, at least people know why this is happening. What are the other causes that are creating such an environment, and also what they as individuals can do to minimize and ensure that the least amount of waste goes to the landfill from their households. The Indian policy and regulation in terms of waste management and the tendering process in terms of
Your
waste.
camera has somehow shut off. Can you
Okay.
please? Yeah.
Can you see me now?
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
So the waste management sector in India, precisely the tendering process in India, is something that they've based on something called the tipping fee model. A lot of you guys know what the tipping model is, but the tipping fee model basically incentivizes private contractors to dump waste and pays them on a per ton basis. So if I dump 1 ton of garbage, they will pay me anywhere from upwards of 1,500 rupees to 2,400 rupees per ton to dump waste. Now, what this does is that this incentivizes these private contractors to not recover or process any of this waste. In fact, it incentivizes them to keep dumping vast amounts of waste in landfill sites. On our landfill sites also, there's a massive presence, and this sector is, of course, riddled with the mafia. There's a massive presence of local goons and mafia, and also, of course, in cohesion with government employees, because none of this can happen without them. And sections of the landfill are actually given out on contract to various groups of rat pickers who then have one leader where they actually light things on fire. So, for example, they'll light wires on fire, which are made out of PVC to recover the copper. They will light various other things on fire to recover all the precious materials. So this is another reason as to why these fires do take place in these landfills. So one, you've got an incentive model that continues to incentivize companies to continue to dump large amounts of waste onto these landfills. And then you've got this unorganized mafia syndicate that controls landfills, which is not spoken about enough, where actually recovery of a lot of these recyclables by burning them takes place in these landfills.
I would just like to come in just to make the conversation, because you've given some very key insights into the entire garbage management scenario. Is it happening because there are so few eco-wise management solutions? Like, is it because...
Yeah. So that was my next point. So what is actually happening through this tendering process is, of course, the monopolization and cartelization of the sector, whereby they're limiting the amount of people that can actually come into the sector and compete, especially on the collection side. And on the segregation and processing is also a bit of an issue, but mostly on the collection side. So what they've basically done is they are moving the ownership of waste to private contractors legally. Now, these private contractors then have the ownership of that waste, whereby they then start dictating who can get that waste from them. So they can subcontract it to other people. They can sell it to kabadis, whatever they want to do with it. So this is a massive, this is a massive sort of underlining thing that most people don't talk about. But yes, and we all know that without competition, and in this sector, especially, the environment is going to suffer, and the customers are going to suffer. And the government, of course, knows this, but it needs to be made very clear to them that the government is going to suffer in terms of loss of money and loss of income. Because if there is no competition, there's going to be no innovation. And if there is no innovation, things are going to remain the same. So competition is a very critical aspect of bringing in innovation in any sector or industry. Without competition, these companies are very lethargic. As you can see, if you go back 15, 20 years, you will not see any sort of real innovation that has happened in the waste management sector globally. All right. India is just doing the same thing that it was doing 15, 20 years ago, which is mostly collecting and dumping. And there are now certain plants that are coming up where they're going to be generating waste to energy, which again is something that I don't really believe in. And people, I can later if people want to ask questions about this. Just give me a minute. I'm just pulling out some of my other points here. So I also wanted to basically just, and I'll speak about all of this, and then you can have your questions in place. globalization, and as we all know, we are in a global context. If we need to be competitive now, um, we need to be Atmanirbhar, as our Prime Minister um, keeps stating. Atmanirbhar Bharat can be achieved through resource recovery from waste. Um, Waste from plastic to paper to e-waste. Um, these all are critical elements in the growth of the economy, in reducing our trade surplus, and also in providing massive amounts of employment and bringing in new entrepreneurship and new blood into the sector. But none of this is happening. India continues to import most of its paper needs, waste paper needs, to feed its paper mills. India continues to import vast amounts of plastic waste into India. And as we all know, India is one of the largest importers of gold in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, we are also one of the largest exporters of e-waste in the world, which holds some of the the maximum amount of gold that is there. A lot of gold is there, a lot of silver is there, a lot of aluminum, tin, a lot of things are there in e-waste that can be processed and recovered here in our country. But unfortunately, most of this is being exported abroad, and then we are importing all of that after it's been processed back into the country. So you've got these skewed and weird sort of policies in place that are allowing all of this to happen. It's not that the government doesn't know that this is happening. This is happening. To your point of competition, Atero, which is a massive e-waste company, just announced $1 billion in investment in setting up lithium-ion battery recycling plant. But guess where that investment is? None of that investment is here in India. All right. It's an Indian company, but unfortunately, like a lot of these startups who have grown big, they're an Indian company just from the fact that they were started in India, but it is all funded by companies based abroad. So now this company is going abroad and investing vast amounts of money to start recycling lithium-ion batteries, whereas the Indian government is pushing the EV policy and saying, listen, we want to get in more electric vehicles on the road. We need more lithium. We need more cobalt. So people need to stop and think as to why all of this is happening. Why is the country not being able to encourage entrepreneurship? And I'm not talking about low productivity entrepreneurship. I'm talking about high productivity entrepreneurship, both in terms of human and capital productivity. It's very clear, do we not have, we need to create that environment within our country where people actually want to set up businesses over here and do things. Globally, we are all competing for talent. It's not that we are not competing for business anymore. We are all competing for mental talent and human talent. And you know very well the amount of people that are leaving the country. Numbers are big, but what is more important to look at is out of those numbers, how many are the kind of people that could be the next Bill Gates, that could be the next Tom Cook or whoever, right? Based out of here in India. And that's a massive loss to the country, because that human capital that is leaving the country is going abroad and then becoming successful over there. We're losing not only taxes, we're losing employment, innovation, entrepreneurs, a whole host of things. So these are all critical issues that the government needs to look at, and us as individuals also need to look at. And as individuals, and I give this quite a lot of thought, and I've given it a thought. What is India? What is India's real passion? What is India passionate about? The people in India, what are they really passionate about? And I sat down for about half an hour and I started writing. I said, all right, first thing that comes to my mind is cricket. All right, let's cricket. All right. Second thing that comes to my mind is family. All right. So let's take family. Third thing that comes to my mind is marriage. We are obsessed with marriage. So let's write that. And the fourth thing that comes to my mind is, politics. So let's take that. Now, besides that, it was very hard for me to try and come out. Of course, religion. to a great extent is also we are very passionate about religion.
Mhm.
But beyond those 4 or 5 things, what is it as a society, as a culture that we are very, very passionate about? And when you start looking at any other country, let's look at Japan, Germany, USA, whatever it is, right? Uh, their global growth, their economic growth, their economic success, it stems out of certain passions that the culture and the society and the economy and the people as a whole have. For example, in Germany, they love cars, right? They like to drive fast. So the highways have been built that way, and the cars have been built that way, and that has now become a global sort of a standard. Example in Japan would be they love writing. So Japanese pens have gone globally, and they've so I so from a passion side, I've always wondered as to what it is, and maybe we can discuss that, or you can probably throw some light onto it. But the other concept, the other important aspect here is individual responsibility, taking individual responsibility and accountability. And unfortunately, maybe this is a controversial view that I'll spit out, but I really believe that that we need to get rid of a lot of the Gandhiji baggage that we are carrying along in our society. Yes, he was a great man, and he had a lot of great things to teach us, but there are certain things that we need to just let go of. So, for example, and I've written about this quite often, is the aspect of Gandhiji's broom.
Mhm.
Yes, you're cleaning your house, but then what? Then what? And that's what you see in all the shops, you see in all the houses. They sweep and they put it out onto the road.
Mhm.
And then the funny thing is, then we've got contractors from the government who go out and sweep the roads. They're doing nothing. The dust is being moved from one place to another. And these are all visible, low-hanging fruit that the government can actually see. And then when you want to go and change that system, there's of course uproar from NGOs and what I like to call the woke society these days about, oh, what are these guys going to do? Who's going to give them a job? You're going to put them out of a job if you start mechanizing this. So these are all of the things that as a society we need to start doing. But from an individual perspective, I would just like to quickly touch on all the things that you can start doing at home. One would be, of course, start composting at home. It's very easy. It's a very, very easy process. There are multiple home composting units that are available. Our organization makes one, but we are not the only one. There are plenty of other ones that do it. Also, while and this is something that is an issue here in India, is when you're discarding off your plastic containers, of course, wash them and throw them, because a lot of people don't wash and throw. And the more contamination there is in all containers, the harder it becomes for companies like us to actually segregate it, clean it, and recycle it, and also lowers the quality of the end product. But before all of that, the most important thing is, of course, a reduction. All right. So reduction is very, very important. Do you really need those new pair of shoes? Do you really need that new shirt? Do you really need that new dress? Do you really need to stock your fridge up? Right. So these are things that as individuals we need to look at. And I don't know if you've heard of the concept of planned obsolescence. So planned obsolescence is a marketing. It's a beautiful concept that has been bought out by corporations, large corporations, Apple, all the large clothing houses, whereby they deliberately make their products go out of fashion so that they can reintroduce new ones, so that there's a continuous cycle. Then they advertise these new things to make you feel guilty to buy these new things, right? So there are a lot of these things that you as individuals can start doing, and you have to, of course, it's about individual responsibility, and it's your responsibility to actually educate yourself, because nobody else is going to do that. If you go out on Google or you go out on YouTube, there are plenty of videos out there of how you can start minimizing your waste. Not only is it good for the environment, but it's actually good for your budget also. You'll end up saving a lot of money, and also eating a lot healthier. So these are all the things that you can start doing from an individual perspective at a household level. Coffee beans, used tea bags. You can also make soap out of them. You can make candles out of them. There's just so many things that you can do. But of course, not everybody has that kind of time to do it. So composting in terms of organic waste is the simplest thing that you can do at home. It doesn't stink up your house, as a lot of people think. And then you can use that compost in your house for your plants and things of other sort. Lastly, and I'll come back to this, is my personal sort of belief is that this sector, firstly, it should be given industry status, but it should also be given the status of a utility, just like gas, or just like electricity, that you get in your house. And whenever I have put forth this idea, a lot of people have got very annoyed and have come up and said, "Listen, we are paying our taxes, so this should be free." So my counter to them is, you're paying your taxes, so you should not be paying toll on these new roads that are being built. That should be free. You should not be paying for gas. You should not be paying for electricity. You should be getting free education. You should also be getting free universal healthcare. Why is it that only garbage is something that the collection of garbage should be free, but everything else you're willing to pay for? So these are all, there are also, of course, rather a lot of deep-rooted social stigmas that are attached to this sector, which we can basically, I mean, if you want me to elaborate on it later on, I can elaborate on it. But I think I'll stop here and I'll give you a chance to ask.
I think Manik ji has given a integral view of the entire waste management sector. He touched upon the social taboo aspect of it, because somewhere or the other, India's hierarchical caste structure somewhere or the other has that, this is a dirty business. But then he proved that we are in fact exporting a lot of gold by way of our e-waste, which we are sending out. I have a few questions, supplementary questions on top of it. You have touched upon the whole, and because of this social taboo somewhere or the other in the policy regulatory sector, it is not being accorded the status of an industry. But then, as you said, that can't we convert these conventional rag pickers or the dumping contractors into the modern, innovative, I would say, recyclers or 360-degree waste managers? Where do you see the challenge, or what kind of an opportunity you see in this proposition?
So I'll break these down. I'll break down the rack pickers and the unorganized sector on one side and the contractors on the other side. The contractors are already organized, and the contractors are large companies. Some of them are trading on the stock market. All right.
Okay.
So the contractors on the larger side is a syndicate. They don't want the system to change because it's very profitable for them to just collect waste and dump it in place. The municipalities don't want that system to change because we all understand how the kickback system that is very prevalent in municipalities functions. From a rag picker perspective, unfortunately, what has happened is that this entire sector, and as I've said, has been given this twist of it being a social sector, of it being a handout sector, of it being run by NGOs. And only NGOs can help these poor rag pickers, and only NGOs can do work for them, which is far from the truth. The actual truth here is that a lot of these NGOs are funded by corporates, and those corporates are some of the biggest polluters in the world. So when these NGOs are funded by polluters, they're not going to work for the interests of the environment. They're going to be working for the interests of the polluter. 75% of majority of the money that comes to NGOs, and this is the fact that can be checked online, goes into administrative costs. 75% into administrative costs. So you're left with 25% that
But
we
Manik,
don't.
you talked a lot about the value you bring about to the whole industry of garbage management. You said there is
That's
a
right.
kind of, so don't these contractors or the larger ones, as you said, that they are trading on the stock market as well. So don't they see the expansion of the economic sector because of that?
No, they can
For
expand.
a
See,
ton of garbage, if it is recycled, if it is value added, so isn't the economy expanding over there?
for them, it doesn't matter. For them, that recyclable waste is getting contracted out to the unorganized sector anyhow. All right. So what they do is they collect it. All right.
Mhm.
And places they actually subcontract it to these rag pickers also, and they say you pay us this much for this recyclable, you pay us this much for the cardboard, you pay us this much for this, dump it. So for them, it's money.
Mm.
Pure financial. For the rag pickers, a lot of rag pickers are entrepreneurs. They're making a lot of money. It's a
Mhm.
misconception, and unfortunately, poverty has been marketed very well in our country. And this is a misconception that rag pickers are poor, and rag pickers, they might look poor, they might live poor, but a lot of them are not poor. A lot of kabadis earn in crores. Okay,
Mhm.
a lot of pickers earn in lakhs, and some of them are earning in crores also. My question is not that. There are a lot of NGOs that are doing very good work. There are a lot of NGOs that are not doing very good work. My question is this, that if you're working on a cause, why is it that it's after 20 years or 25 years of working on the cause, those people that you're working for remain in the same conditions that were prevalent for 15 years ago? Why has there been no change in their standard of living, in their income, right? Whereas I see a change in your standard of living and I see a change in your income, right? Similarly, on the private contractor side, um, there and see, Raghav, these are all very intertwined issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
These issues that you can solve over a period of a year or 2 years or 5 years. And Modi ji has tried to do this in terms of trying to solve these issues. But such deep-rooted corruption,
Mhm.
um, mindsets that go back, in some cases, centuries,
Mhm.
cultural, cultural beliefs, social beliefs that go back centuries, cannot be changed in a period of 5 years, 10 years. It'll take decades for us to start thinking. And to that point, where I want to come at is, and how we can expedite that
Mhm.
is by actually talking about all this at a early childhood level, in
Mhm.
our school, in our homes. Start teaching this. We have to there are a lot of good things about our culture and about our society, but there are also, like anything else, there are a lot of not so good things about our culture and our society that are prevalent. But unfortunately, that is not being taught to our kids. You know, things such as this are not being taught to kids. So so, for example, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and the kid finished. He was sitting on the table and he finished dinner. And the maid came and and there was food left on the plate. The maid came and picked up the plate from the table for the Maharaja, and the plate was taken to the kitchen. The Maharaja never saw it. Um, so, what kind of values are we building in our kids, right? Um, the doorbell rang, the garbage man came.
Mhm.
Um, how many, to be very honest, okay, in the middle class, lower middle class, because maybe they don't have house help, they will not do it, but they also aspire towards that. But in the upper class, in the upper middle class households where they've got help, how many people actually take their own garbage out? How
Mhm.
many people actually segregate their garbage? Uh, that food that we ate on our plate, after it's finished, even if the leftovers, now that's garbage, is dirty for us. So though, you don't go close to the kuda wala. He's dirty. To him, he's dirty. Don't touch him, he's dirty. So these are cultural and social things that create these barriers. Then as you grow up and you move in to a job, and you come with that baggage, and that's how you treat people when you go and you treat your kabadi. So these are things that, and there's serious investment that needs to be done. Of course, you also speak about this quite a bit. There's serious investment that we need to do in terms of quality of education in our country and what is being taught, and that's something I know that you propagate quite a bit.
So apart from composting, reduction of the waste at the household level, that is one, you talked about it. You also touched upon the factor that this entire sector has to be, I would say, transcended from a social sector to a utility sector. Let it be seen in that fashion. What kind of a segregation can be done at a household level to sensitize the young learners? That is something which at a school level or whatever, that fine, reduction is one part, but at the end of the day, when economy is flourishing, everyone is consuming more. But at least whatever waste you have got, one tip you gave, that wash your plastic waste. If you have bought something from Swiggy or Zomato, whatever, so before throwing, wash it. So that is one thing. In what all categories is a household waste can be segregated right over there, so that even a general kid can see, oh, this is the gold I'm throwing out, or maybe that can might accentuate a lot of other, I would say, effects.
So sure. So I think as of now, you have to apply the concept of KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. Because the more complicated you make it, it's going to become. So right now you can just do organic, all right, plastic, and plastic together doesn't matter. You can do your e-waste and hazardous waste. So you've got your batteries, you've got all of that, and last you can do all of your sanitary waste. So diapers, massive. So all of those things then need to go in, and of course, from a health and hygiene perspective, it's very imperative, especially for diapers and sanitary pads, to be packed polythene bags and actually tied and then given to the garbage man, and he must be informed that this is what is in it, because a lot of these people segregate with their bare hands. So you can imagine a lot of them do reach into this kind of stuff, and they do get filthy. So that's a big issue. But you can start with these 5 things. Of course, your organic waste can be composted very easily, but you can have these 5 segregated dustbins. COVID is out, but earlier when COVID was in there, then there was also, of course, you put your masks and your gloves and your but you could still do that with your you could still put it with your diapers and stuff like that.
Because there is a very well-defined coding of waste in a probably in a healthcare establishment that is enforced upon quite well. The various color codes of dustbins or garbage bins are there. But at the household level, it has not gone beyond the green and the black or the multiple waste. Probably that's a area where.
See, Raghav, this is also, and you will notice this is also this is an issue of coding, color coding. All right. From if you travel within the city of Delhi, you will see the government putting up 3 bins in some places, 2 bins in some places. One bin will be green, the other will be red, and the other will be black. But moment you go from one area to another, the color of the bin will change, but same item will remain, right? Then you go to the airport and now you see a green bin and a yellow bin and a blue bin and a pink bin, right? So the customer is also confused as to what the hell is going on, right? Over there, they were telling me to put stuff in the, or let's say they were telling me to put e-waste in the black bin. Here, they're telling me to put it in the red bin. These are things that the government has to think about in terms of uniformity, because consumers are going out, people are going out. The more they see it, the more they will realize and associate with it. But if they keep seeing different things for the same item, they'll get confused too. So this is critical thinking. This is mass thinking. Somebody needs to freaking sit down and actually, write down these things, draw it out, and then start implementing it.
We come to the close of this lovely enlightening masterclass on this World Environment Day. Just one last ask. What keeps you ticking and driving in such a complicated, disorganized, full of challenges sector? And as you said, it's a dirty sector, a stinking sector, but then this dirt you are cleaning from the households, from the community. What keeps Manik ticking?
What keeps me ticking is not in terms of proving people wrong, but what keeps me ticking is the fact that I want to ensure that my vision of my my company and my vision for India as whole bears fruit, whatever time it takes. And without, I mean, we are not helped by anybody. So it's that vision of being one of the largest to become one of the largest waste management companies, integrated waste management companies, where we are processing and collecting everything under one roof in different cities. What keeps me going and keeps me ticking at night. And of course, and I'll not lie, I'm a capitalist at heart. So for me, the wealth and the money that I can generate and the opportunities I can create for others by doing this is what keeps me going.
I think that's a very wonderful take-home message. The commitment behind Manik's, I would say, continuous striving to make a difference in this emerging sector. I think he has given a very wonderful masterclass out here. A lot of doables at the individual level and also at the policy level. And the most important one single point which takeaway which goes on, that let garbage collection become a utility industrial sector. And let's modernize this entire space, because the entire social commitment attached to these rag pickers who go barefoot in chappals, who tear down their ankles, and a host of other welfare. So once we really acknowledge that this is a big industry and really making an Atmanirbhar Bharat, a lot of recycling happening over there, and a lot of stinking which happens in our landfills can be taken care of. So thank you, Manikji, for your wonderful session. I think it will, this is a true commemoration of this World Environment Day, and we hope and we pledge from Rethink India's perspective that we will propagate it as much as possible. And most importantly, segregation. As you gave a case study of one Maharaja child who was not even handling his food waste. Now, these are the simple things which we really need to inculcate, whosoever you might be. But your personal waste has to be seen by yourself. You have to segregate it into 3 or 4 categories at the household level. And then directly it can be taken up by the various waste management and recycling corporations. I think a lot of insights, a lot of material to process. Thank you so much for this lovely session. And we wish you all the best to really become India's preeminent, I would say, the biggest and the most impact creating waste management, integrated waste management company. We wish you all the best for that. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you.